A 5-year-old boy walked into his home after school and found his mother dead on the floor. She had been bound, assaulted, and executed with a single shot to the head. For 52 years, no one knew who did it, until one piece of DNA changed everything. On January 11, 1974, a quiet home in Oceanside, Long Island became the center of a brutal and deeply disturbing crime. Neighbors would later describe the street as peaceful, safe, ordinary, the kind of place where doors were rarely locked, where nothing like this was supposed to happen. But behind one front door, something had already gone terribly wrong. Sometime that morning, someone entered the Waldman family home. Barbara Waldman was alone. Her husband was at work. Her children were at school. The house should have been empty, safe. But it wasn't. There were no signs of forced entry, which raised a chilling question. Did she know her attacker? Or had someone been watching her routine for days, waiting for the exact moment she would be alone? Inside the house, the intruder confronted her. There was a struggle, a moment where everything could have changed, but it didn't. Barbara was overpowered, restrained using her own stockings, and then shot in the back of the head, execution style. The level of control suggested something calculated. It was deliberate, not impulsive. But what made the crime even more disturbing was what didn't happen. Nothing valuable was taken. No signs of theft, which meant this wasn't about money. It was something else, something far more dangerous. And that uncertainty would follow the case for decades. But the most devastating moment came hours later. A school bus stopped outside the house. Barbara's 5-year-old son stepped off, walked inside, and went upstairs. The house was silent. Too silent. No movement. No sound. What he saw next would stay with him forever. He found his mother's body. Police arrived quickly. The neighborhood was suddenly filled with flashing lights. Officers secured the scene. Detectives moved carefully through the house, searching, analyzing, trying to reconstruct what had happened. Fingerprints were collected, fibers examined, biological evidence preserved. Every detail mattered. Every small clue could have been the answer. But even with all that effort, there was nothing that clearly pointed to a suspect. No eyewitness. No direct lead. No clear motive. And in 1974, DNA testing didn't exist, which meant the most critical evidence remained silent. Investigators weren't lacking effort. They were limited by time. They had evidence, but no way to unlock it. The answers were there, hidden, waiting. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Months turned into years. Leads disappeared. Memories faded. Witnesses moved away. And slowly, the investigation stopped moving forward. The case was filed away, but never forgotten. In the absence of answers, people begin to create their own. Suspicion turned toward those closest to Barbara. Her husband, Gerald. He was never charged, never officially named a suspect. But rumors don't need evidence. They spread anyway. For decades, those suspicions followed him, affected his life, his reputation, his family. All while, the real killer remained unknown. The case sat in storage, evidence preserved, waiting. Because sometimes, justice is delayed by time, not prevented by it. Investigators knew that one day, technology might catch up. And when it did, everything could change. By the early 2000s, DNA had transformed investigations. Cases once thought impossible were suddenly being solved. Then came something even more powerful: investigative genetic genealogy. Instead of searching for the suspect, it searches for their relatives. Distant DNA matches, family trees, hidden connections. From those links, investigators narrowed down suspects. It had already solved multiple cold cases. So, in 2024, detectives reopened the Waldman case. The preserved evidence was tested again. This time, technology was ready. A usable DNA profile was developed. It was entered into genealogy databases. And slowly, connections began to appear. Not a suspect, but a family. From there, investigators built a tree. Carefully, methodically, eliminating names, following branches, until one individual stood out. A name never seriously considered before: Thomas Generazio. Generazio had lived just miles away. He worked as a sanitation worker, which meant he knew the neighborhoods, the schedules, the routines. He wasn't an outsider. He blended in, and that made him invisible. In 1974, his name never appeared in the investigation. Not once. He moved through life, completely unnoticed. By the time detectives identified him, he had already died. In 2004, at the age of 57, for decades, he lived freely, while the case remained unsolved. Even after identifying him, investigators needed proof. DNA linked to Generazio was compared to the original evidence. The result was definitive: a match. After more than 50 years, the mystery was solved. In March 2026, authorities made it official. Thomas Generazio was responsible. The case that had remained unanswered for decades finally had a conclusion. There was no known personal connection, no confirmed motive, just a violent act. Random, brutal, and devastating. Barbara's children stood beside investigators. For decades, they lived with uncertainty, with unanswered questions, and with suspicion surrounding their father. Now, they finally had the truth. Their father was never involved. The doubt was gone, but the pain remained. Barbara's son, the one who found her, has said the memory never left him. The man who committed this crime will never face justice in a courtroom. He will never answer for what he did. But now, he has a name. One home. One morning. One act of violence that changed everything. For more than half a century, the case remained silent. But evidence doesn't forget. And neither do investigators. Because sometimes, justice takes decades. But eventually, it arrives.